In at number 10, Hellcat. Hellcat, aka Patsy Walker, hooked up with the son of Satan once upon a time. Damien Hellstrom and Patsy hit it off as soon as he joined the Defenders, and the two fell in love. Damon was into Patsy because she made him feel loved just by being herself, and helped him become more of, I quote, a son of man than a son of Satan. Oh. And what did Patsy get out of this? Well, she thought he was super hot. Just, oh damn, look at that Satan symbol on his chest. That's what Patsy was probably thinking. This got even weirder when Satan decided he would try to convince the hero that she was his daughter in Defenders issue 111 from 1982. Incestual stuff. Now, despite that strange blip, Patsy and Damon actually got married in Defenders issue 125, which caused Damon to lose his dark soul and become human, which incidentally also killed him. This led to Patsy attempting to save him in Hellstrom, Son of Satan, issue 12, retrieving his dark soul and making Damon a demon again. And it gets weird for them yet again, because after seeing Damon's true form, Patsy couldn't deal and she killed herself. She'd return eventually, as all comic book characters do, except for Uncle Ben. And in Marvel Divas issue 1-4, Damon reappears to Patsy after she's published a tell-all book about her life, and offers to heal her friend Firestar's cancer in exchange for Patsy's soul. And really, it's all just a narcissistic ruse to Damon, who is just pissed off that he was barely mentioned in Patsy's book. So, yeah. Narcissism. In at number 9, Buffy. Vampires are considered pretty damn demonic in the Buffyverse, and Buffy, the Vampire Slayer, has hooked up with not just one, but two vampires, having complicated romantic relationships with Angelus, aka Angel, and Spike over the course of 7 seasons of the TV series, which now continues the story in its comic books. Buffy began a relationship with Angel in the first season of the show, which would implode in the second season when his soul was removed and he reverted back to his homicidal sadistic ways. Being the big bad of that season, the two of them split up and Angel ran off to LA to star in his very own television spin-off, while the two were still kind of always each other's OTP, or as far as Sarah Michelle Gellar is concerned, and also myself. Spike, who was initially supposed to be a one-off villain, ended up sticking around for later seasons of Buffy, and the two began a romance. Spike was tormented by the fact that he had fallen in unrequited love with the Slayer, and after Buffy died and was brought back to life and suffered through a very traumatic season 6, the two would eventually kiss. But it was a pretty toxic relationship. In the end, he sacrificed himself for the greater good, finding himself on Angel's TV show after Buffy's series ended. Plus, her pal Xander was also in a long-term relationship with a demon named Anya, so the whole series just has a whole lot of intermingling when it comes to the supernatural and who gets you off. Willow's a witch. It's really just a metaphor for being gay. And at number 8, Deadpool and two people actually for this one, Shikla and Zatanna. So we have our first double offender here on our list. Yes, there are more. Deadpool hasn't hooked up with just one demon, but 2. Let's start off with another child of Satan's, the creatively named Zatanna, who Deadpool saved from the results of a high-stakes poker game with 5 geeky dudes. It turns out these geeky dudes are actually some bigwigs in the demonic world. Specifically, they are Dormammu, Lucifer, Mephisto, and 2 other guys, who wanted to marry the succubus daughter of Satan in order to become the heir to hell. Now, Zatanna lost her soul in said poker game, having to be married to the demon who won, until Deadpool stepped in and married her first. In exchange, she endowed him with powers that let him defeat these demons, causing them to retreat. Zatanna immediately broke it off with the merc with a mouth though, keeping half of his soul as part of their divorce. She wasn't the only demon that he's married though. Deadpool had an on and off again relationship with the demon Shikla, who he had been paid to go and fetch after her father had put her in stasis as a means of keeping her safe from Dracula. They got married, but after a bunch of issues arose in their relationship, Shikla would do the unthinkable and ditch DP for the last man that her dad wanted her shacking up with, Dracula himself. It's fine, Deadpool's really in love with Mistress Death, so it's all good. In at number 7, Zatanna and Constantine. So, Constantine classifies as part demon. He once got a blood transfusion from the demon lord Nergal. Nergal is a demon, which is enough to classify him as a demon half in this pairing. Now, when Zatanna first hit the scene, many of her adventures consisted of trying to find her birth father. This quest led her to the Justice League of America, further colliding her with other heroes, including Constantine. Now, after she found Daddy Dearest, her and John would have an on and off again affair while he was dating one of his other love interests, Emma. This affair would always be complicated by the fact that Constantine was somewhat responsible for her father's death, having been the one who organized a seance in which her dad sacrificed himself to protect her. The romance would continue to be explored after the New 52 relaunch in the Justice League Dark, with the two of them being exes, but on good and civil terms. Now we'll be talking about some other demonic love interests of Constantine later on in our list, where he is actually the more human half. But for now, on to our next number. In at 6, my personal favorite, Mephisto and Rogue. Oh, this pairing kills me. It is so absurd and so weird, and of course it's Rogue. Remember when she shacked up with Magneto for a hot second in the 616 and then for a long minute in the Age of Apocalypse timeline? Yeah, girl's got some interesting taste in love interests, and also a thing for dudes with the letter M as their first initial. But not Gambit, he doesn't count. Once upon a time, there was a fun little miniseries called Mephisto vs. the Marvel Universe, and in it, he was all about collecting those hot female superhero souls for his lonesome self. He hit up the Invisible Woman first, then Jean Grey, and then by the third issue, he had his sights set on Rogue. Rogue's thoughts during this brief entanglement consists of her debating about whether or not she's feeling this demonic makeout. She goes through an emotional roller coaster, stating that her mind is blown by the fact that she's able to touch someone and kiss someone, but then she is triggered by the fact that it is with, I quote, a creature like Mephisto. She then gets freaked out by the fact that he is old, or as she puts it, so incredibly old. Now after they kiss, Rogue is almost mean about it, saying, I quote, "You're like me. No one ever wants to touch you, to know you. Only with you, it's like 100,000 times worse." She's basically like, oh man, my life sucks, but yours is so much worse, dude. Like, you're way more lonely than I am. And he legit responds with, bah, spare me your pity, as if he's like not hurt by it. She's so mean. Rogue then Nancy Drews his MO of taking souls as a substitute for real contact, and then she makes it about her, so he macks her some more to get her to shut up. Problematic storylines, gotta love them, but it's a demon. Anyway, long story short, Rogue absorbs his soul collecting abilities, and then he tries to use her in the 4th issue to steal Thor's soul, and then it's revealed that this was all just a convoluted scheme to screw around with Hela. Yeah. And also apparently to get some.
Number 10, Star Fox. These two were so weird in the comics, and definitely the writing of how this all kind of came about is something I feel like most of us would just like to forget, which is why they are ranked so low. The two had a fling one night when they were both Avengers. Jen even described the as being amazing, but later she reminisces about her night with Star Fox while defending him in a assault case. She begins to worry through hearing a woman's testimony that he has used his powers and influence on her to make her fall for him. It turned out that he hadn't done that, but something just as bad. He had manipulated her into falling for someone else. He was of course just doing it because he wanted to see Jen happy, but manipulating someone into having feelings for another person, which later results in them getting married, is never really a good look, especially on someone who is supposed to be a hero like Eros. What were you thinking, Star Fox? What were you thinking? Number 9, Man-Wolf. She-Hulk and Man-Wolf had a brief and rocky romance, which later became a full-blown love story to them, who were both under the influence of Eros. Star Fox made the two of them fall in love, and they both became obsessed with one another. She-Hulk even went so far as to try and stay in her human form when she was around John, who preferred her that way. The two eloped, but when Jen found out the truth behind why they really loved one another, she immediately wanted a divorce, finally understanding why her and John also had so many unresolvable disagreements, yet somehow decided to stay together. John wanted to give it another go, saying that he still loved Jen, but she refused to give in, claiming that really they had never loved one another, leaving Man-Wolf, aka John Jonah Jameson III, with no options but to sign the divorce papers. I get it though, She-Hulk's pretty awesome, I'd want to hold on to that too. Number 8, Richard Rory. While Richard may not be a hero in the super sense, he has worked heroically to try and protect the monstrous hero Man-Thing after an encounter with him left Rory forever changed. Richard was originally a DJ for a radio station in Florida who always seemed to find himself down on his luck. Again, not a great pick when it comes to partners for Jen, but definitely one that briefly happened. These two ran into each other in the streets of Las Vegas, and Rory offered Jennifer Walters a ride after he suspected that she had had a run-in with the terrifying She-Hulk. She originally turned him down until she saw his sweet ride, which was a limo. Rory had just won a ton of money at the casino and was currently quite well off. Jen decided to go with Richard. Richard is a pessimist who feels he always has bad luck, and as such this makes him pretty mopey, and we usually see anything that happens to him in a negative mindset as a result. Although Richard may have not been great for Jen, Jen was pretty good for him, offering that Richard's main problem was actually that he just had an unhealthy self-image. The two parted ways after an adventure involving the Man-Thing, though they would run into each other a couple more times in the comics. They parted with a kiss. Number 7. Clay Quartermain. Clay was an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. and led the Hulkbusters at one point. He recruited She-Hulk for S.H.I.E.L.D. when she was called in after being a registered superhuman under the Superhuman Registration Act. Shortly after joining up, Clay called She-Hulk Mrs. Jameson, using her former married name. She corrected him, saying that she had actually reverted back to Walters after her divorce. Hearing she was divorced, Clay became intrigued, and it's implied that he put a move on her. She-Hulk did end up sleeping with him, though she seems to express some remorse after, thinking to herself that Jennifer Walters would not have done that. But as She-Hulk, she does what she wants, when she wants, and with whom she wants. However, it also seemed that her decision to sleep with Quartermain left her questioning her own sense of self, and caused her to look in the mirror and face an emptiness that seemed to be eating away inside her. And Hawkeye. In the What If series Volume 2, Issue 114, we get to examine a world where heroes and villains stayed on Battleworld during the events of the original Secret Wars, laid down their arms, and ended up basically retiring and settling down. One of the oddest couples to come out of this What If story was She-Hulk and Hawkeye, who had a son named CJ, who was green with his mom's strength, but the skill of his dad when it came to being a crack shot. How these two came together exactly we'll never know, but hey, at least they weren't quite as strange as the pairing of Captain America and Rogue, so there's that. Number 5. Iron Man. Oddly enough, someone else who also has a romantic history with She-Hulk tried to stop this from happening, Clay Quartermain. Tony appears and offers to debrief She-Hulk, revealing a candlelit dinner setting in a room on the helicarrier, despite the fact that Quartermain insists that he should be the one doing any debriefing. Tony Stark and She-Hulk end up in bed together after the debriefing, if there was one at all, and actually begin to have a fairly interesting conversation. She-Hulk inquires as to how Tony manages to sleep around, expanding that when she does it, she's labeled as a skank, but when he does it, he is glorified as a player. Tony is about to answer and provide Jennifer with his insight when the helicarrier is attacked, detracting what could have been undoubtedly a very interesting conversation between the two supers. Number 4. Hercules. She-Hulk has had a thing for Hercules for a while in the comics. She's fantasized about him on more than one occasion and fought alongside him. In one instance, he made an appearance in Volume 2, Issue 30 of She-Hulk, where the two got up to more than just a fantasy, and more than just fighting. She-Hulk teamed up to help Hercules take down a Celtic god, which ended up with the two of them alone together in an ambulance. They got to talking apparently, and one thing led to another. Before Jen knew it, she was resting in the arms of a god after finally getting to sleep with him. She knew it wasn't going to end up anywhere, but she was pretty fine with that. One thing I've always loved about She-Hulk is how much she just owns her own sexuality. So cool to see that in comics in general. Number 3. Thor. More recently in the comics, She-Hulk and Thor have been a thing, which has excited many fans. Both heroes are known for their strength, making this superhero duo quite the power couple. Originally, Jen was worried about having a crush on Thor. She feared that he only liked her for her She-Hulk form, but in Avengers Volume 8, she and Thor have a heart-to-heart. Just as Jen is ready to walk out on Thor, he confesses his feelings, admitting he is enamored by the She-Hulk, but who he really wants to know is the She inside, who he feels he has distance from. He wants to know Jen's desires and thoughts and fall in love with them. The two seal the deal with a kiss. Aww. I also love how that all starts with Thor being like, I'm terrible with words. And then he's like, JK, I just nailed it. Number 10. Cable and X-23. This relationship was somewhat implied in the second volume of Fallen Angels from 2019. Here, young Cable and X-23, aka Wolverine, aka Laura Kinney, are brought together to join Kwanon's Psylocke on a mission to uncover the location of her daughter, and what happened to her. During the series, there were lots of great flirting and bantery moments between young Cable or Kid Cable and X-23. We'd also learn in the Cable series from the same period that young Cable was popular on the island, dating actually a bunch of young and eligible mutant ladies. While X-23 and Cable's relationship never really seemed to grow into anything permanent, it was still a fun time and kind of a random ship that seemed to work surprisingly well. Of course, this was before Laura got with Sync during their time together in the vault, but that of course might be a story for another list, if you're unfamiliar with that one. Also, if you are, goodness, I need to put that on a list because it's such a lovely relationship. Number 9. Batman and Batgirl. Batman and Batgirl. Oh boy. We've talked about this one before on the channel, but it's such an unlikely pairing that it's pretty easy to miss if you're not aware of it. And if you're new, I mean, welcome to this awkwardness, because you've probably never heard me tell you about it before. These two ended up together in the animated universe, where in Batman Beyond it was suggested that the two had a relationship. relationship. We later learn through the Batman Beyond comics set in that same world that not only did this happen, but that Barbara and Bruce, who already are typically more portrayed as having a mentor and teacher relationship, hooked up behind Dick Grayson's back while he was away. And that their time together actually resulted in Barbara becoming pregnant with Bruce's child. The baby never made it to full term, and the loss of the potential child did end the relationship between Batgirl and Batman. Although we'd still revisit that in another animated movie, but yeah. Number 8. Speed and Prodigy. This one might just be selfishly included for me, because it's a relationship that I personally always forget about. So I'm gonna include it here, in case you, like me, also somehow forgot about this one. I think the reason this one gets overlooked in my mind is just because of the big energy that we get from Hulkling and Wiccan's relationship, which kinda tends to overshadow Wiccan's brother Tommy, aka Speed, and what he has going on. I love Prodigy though, and every time I read him, it helps to jog my memory. Every time I'm reading about Prodigy, I'm like, oh yeah, Prodigy's with Speed. Also, these two were both kind of on the back burner for a while, but guess what? If you're a shipper of Speed and Prodigy together, they're kinda back together in the forefront, and of course better than ever. At least somewhat in the forefront. I mean, I don't think they're gonna be beating Hulkling and Wiccan in terms of being in the forefront anytime soon, but you know, those two together are like so cosmic. Number 7. Superman and Luma Linai. Superman and Luma Linai were brought together by Supergirl, who wanted to help her cousin, Kal-El, find the perfect mate. Trying her hand at playing matchmaker, Supergirl found for him the superpowered blonde Luma Linai. Luma actually looked pretty much exactly like Supergirl, which sounds awkward, but that was kind of the whole point of this match. In Action Comics Volume 1, issue 289, Supergirl tries setting up Superman 3 times, and the third time only seems to stick because Superman actually shares with Supergirl that if he had to marry anyone, he'd want it to be someone just like her. Well, that's not weird at all. Your cousins. That's not weird at all. So Supergirl heads to the planet Starro, locating a match that is remarkably similar to a grown-up version of her. Fortunately, Luma can't come back to Earth. Oh no. Because our yellow sun is harmful to her, despite giving Superman his powers. So the two are only together for this one issue, and then they're basically forced apart forever. Well, Superman actually offers to stay with Luma on her home world instead, but she just refuses the offer in tears. Because comics. Superman's gotta be Superman, so he's like, I can't actually marry you, so I need you to refuse me, please. The writers were like, that's how we'll get him out of this one. Great. Number 6. Iron Man and Emma Frost. One that I'm still waiting to happen in the comics is the coupling of Tony Stark and Emma Frost. Okay, so admittedly, that is a thing that kind of already happened. Tony and Emma used to be friends with benefits for a time, and it was referred to back by the two of them in issue 3 of the 2006 Civil War series. But what I'm talking about here is actually a foreshadowed wedding that was mentioned in History of the Marvel Universe issue number 6. This was something that was intended to be coming up that hadn't happened yet. I'm not necessarily holding my breath for this one, as plans in the mutant lineup have kind of changed of late, but I'm still keeping my eye out for these two to come together. And maybe you should too, because you know, that future might not be so far away. That way you can also join me on my aha moment when and if it does come to pass. And then when it happens, you too can be in on it, and you can be like, I knew it! We talked about it on this list.
In at number 4, Mystique and Azazel. X-Men member Nightcrawler is the product of a mutant and a demon rubbing nasties. Mystique, his biological mother, who is blue and has shape-shifting abilities, hooks up with Azazel after developing a crush on the Nightwing. In Uncanny X-Men issue 428, Mystique, who wants to get married to the demon, learns the hard way that sometimes dudes just want a one-night stand with a blue mutant inside of a church. In the aftermath, Azazel is all like, girl, never confuse physical passion for a condition of the heart. Since the dawn of mankind, the two have rarely gone hand in hand. She's like, yeah, whoa. But also still like really upset about it because she does like kind of love him. He's just like the ultimate demon boy. He also impregnates her with Nightcrawler, who she is forced to abandon in order to save from an angry mob. But Azazel's like, yo, I'ma save you and then give you to my sister and then everything is dope. He did that too. He's hip, he is with the kids. And at number 3, Etrigan and Lady Xanadu and Lady Blaze. Etrigan loves the ladies. He is also another double whammy on our list. So for starters, Etrigan is Jason Blood, a mortal man bound to the demon Etrigan, meaning they share their love interests, which sometimes gets complicated. In Batman the Dark Knight issues 4 and 5, 5 back in 2011, Etrigan makes an appearance when hunting down a demon running rampant in Gotham. Turns out this demon is a servant of Lady Blazes, who then strikes up a deal with Etrigan to fully restore his power in exchange for him being her consort. Jason Blood is like, nah man, I'm good. Like, this chick's a demon, I think I'm going to pass. But Etrigan is like, yes please, and overpowers Jason. Etrigan eventually realizes that Blaze is lying in order to take advantage of him. Chip drop. It's not gonna get some, demon boy.
Number 2. Wyatt Wingfoot. She-Hulk met Wyatt during her time on the Fantastic Four roster when she was standing in for Ben Grimm. The two had a run-in with Wyatt and his tribe. But Wyatt Wingfoot is not superpowered. He has acted as an ally to both the Fantastic Four and She-Hulk herself on her own adventures. He often also acts as a hero when it comes to protecting his tribe, the Kiwazi. Sorry if I say that wrong. Jennifer and Wyatt quickly begin a romance that would span over decades in the comics. She met his parents, he attended law school, and even at one point proposed to her. Unfortunately, later his own duties as chief of the Kiwazi tribe and ensuring the tribe's safety would oftentimes keep him away from her. Still, the two's on and off again relationship has been revisited as late as the 2000s and as early as the 1980s. That's a long relationship. Number 1. Luke Cage. So, I know Luke Cage is destined to be with Jessica Jones, and I love the two of them together, but She-Hulk and Luke Cage had some of the cutest chemistry that I've ever seen in comics. They both worked together in Heroes for Hire, and it was during She-Hulk's time there that Luke Cage won a date with her by betting that he could get to the control room of a building before she could. He won running through the walls to get there, and She-Hulk agreed to go on a date with Luke. He and Jen just have some great dialogue during their time together in the 90s. She-Hulk is quite sassy, and they both seem to challenge each other in the best of ways, causing one another to reflect on their world views. They push each other to be better too, and are both tough enough to survive getting romantic with the other. Short-lived romance. Bring it back. Number 5. Batman and Black Canary. A lot of people think of Black Canary as only really having eyes for Green Arrow. Often in the comics, these two superheroes have been painted as soulmates for one another. But hey, you know, that wasn't always the case. There was a time in the comics when Black Canary actually had second thoughts as to whether or not her and Ollie were really meant to be. When she was having doubts, Batman was there for her, and the two at one point in main continuity shared a passionate kiss. Well, back when Earth 1 was considered the main continuity anyways, before it was retconned to be considered an alternate Earth. In regards to the old once main continuity of Earth 1 though, that's about as far as it ever got between these two heroes. However, in Frank Miller's All-Star Batman and Robin, the two are actually lovers, at least for a time, with Batman also kind of being the more reluctant participant when it comes to the somewhat unlikely couple. But Black Canary is super into it, and Batman's like, I mean, I'm here. I would do this. Number 4. Luke Cage and She-Hulk. Luke Cage is a guy who you usually think of as being with Jessica Jones. Why? Well, because the two are married and they also have a daughter together. Also, they're super cute together. The two of them are an amazing power couple. But before they tied the knot and ended up committing to one another, did you know that Luke Cage actually went on a date with She-Hulk? Yep. After winning a bet, he got Jennifer Walters to commit to going out to dinner with him. Honestly, these two together are also a great pair when you think about it. Both are strong, both are witty, and both are committed to doing whatever it takes to save civilians in peril. Unfortunately, their relationship really only consisted of that one date as far as I know, which is also why you might have missed this brief pairing. If you want to check out this date though, which coincidentally gets interrupted by some baddies but then even continues after that, check out Heroes for Hire issue 17. And I believe that's Heroes for Hire volume number 1 from the 90s. Number 3. Supergirl and Jimmy Olsen. This happened in Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen. What a wonderful, weird series. What happened? Well, Supergirl, who has at times been shipped with Soup's pal, ties the knot with Jimmy Olsen himself. Jimmy gets all the ladies in the comics, but really he kinda does. Must be that ginger charm. Jimmy Olsen ends up with Supergirl in this case because she gets amnesia. Jimmy, not knowing that Linda Danvers is Supergirl's secret identity, accidentally exposes her to red kryptonite when she attends a show where he's basically showing off all his trophies and his souvenirs from his exploits with Superman. The two are wed, and it's only after their wedding, when they are married, that the effects of the red kryptonite wear off, with Linda getting her memories and her superpowers back. Now, Supergirl has a dilemma because, you know, she wants Jimmy to also love that other side of her. Because yeah, she gets her memories back and she's like, yeah, I'm married to Jimmy Olsen, I love it. So she wants Jimmy to fall in love with her true Kryptonian side. So what is a girl to do? Well, obviously try to get him to cheat on his wife, who is of course still her, with her superhero persona of Supergirl, right? Isn't that what we do? It was a different time, folks. Jimmy ends up being conflicted when he believes both women are interested in him, with Supergirl actually propositioning him for marriage even though he's already married to Linda. In the end though, everything is resolved and Jimmy realizes he's married to Supergirl and Linda, who are one and the same. However, this issue also ends with the fact that this is all an imaginary tale. Haha, joke's on you, reader. So the wedding that thousands of readers, as described in the intro, had apparently been waiting for was actually all a sham. Aw, DC, you got us. But hey, in an alternate reality where this happened, the two are possibly still married, so fun facts. Number 2, Human Torch and Mr. Fantastic. That is right, speaking of alternate realities, there is an alternate reality over at Marvel where the Human Torch is the older Storm sibling who ends up married to Reed Richards. This alternate team of the FF appear in issue 563 of the Fantastic Four series, legacy numbering of course. Here we meet Jack Storm, who is Reed Richards' partner in crime fighting and his partner in romance. Jack is the older sibling and Sue is the younger, though she is still a member of the team as the Invisible Woman. Unfortunately, their alternate world was in pretty bleak shape when we saw them in that issue. The whole team died, but we can't assume there was a time in this reality where Jack and his husband Reed were actually quite happy together, before everything pretty much ended. This couple existed in the reality of Earth 93563. Number 1, Harley Quinn and Harley Quinn. Now, I think at this point we can almost certainly count Harley as a superhero. I mean, at least an anti-hero, at the very least. While she may have won Villain of the Year only a few years ago in 2019, she still has played an active role when it comes to the hero side of things in the comics, even teaming up with Batman in Joker War and joining the Bat family in a more recurring role as Bat's sidekick this year in 2021 in the Batman series. So for that reason, I'm gonna count her for this list. Also, I love Harley for the reason that she is constantly changing and evolving so much. It's hard to pin her down as either hero or villain permanently. It's great. I like when people are like, what are they? They're kind of complicated. That's what they are. In her own series, Harley's Little Black Book, here Harley teams up with herself, her bombshell self that is. Harley's Little Black Book, in case you didn't know, is actually a team-up book for Harley Quinn. Also, if you haven't read it, go check it out. It's pretty wild and pretty fun. Because Harley ends up teaming with herself in issue number 4 of this series, she can't resist and of course gives herself a big kiss. While main continuity Harley is all about it and even proclaims, hey, she's a pretty good kisser, bombshell Harley does not seem to feel any sparks between them, thinking that the main continuity Harley is actually a trick created by her enemies. Gotta love the self-love.
And finally, in at number 1, saved the biggest for last, Hulk and Umar. The Hulk has had his fair share of romances, but none is as wacky as his hookup with Umar, the demon sister of the mystical entity Dormammu. She's his little sis. It's kind of hard to imagine him having any family whatsoever, but this is a thing. She also lives in a tower where she kind of kidnaps the Hulk and then hooks up with him as seen in Defenders issue 3. And oh boy, at first he wasn't feeling it at all, so there's some consent issues there, but then wabam. After 6 whole minutes of them doing the dirty, he can't take it. He is so overwhelmed with ecstasy that he can't keep up with her. He even reverts back to Bruce Banner afterwards. Now, keep in mind, almost nothing is capable of reverting Hulk back to Banner. Once upon a time, the only thing that worked was puppies. So apparently Bruce Banner will not be the Hulk if you give him puppies or mind-blowing. Take what you will from that. Umar would make a cameo later on in The Incredible Hulk issue 633 when he was Worldbreaker Hulk. She showed up in a portal that was shaped like a mouth and chilled him out by having sex with him, of course. This time with their banging forming a giant mushroom cloud in the process. Yeah.